I keep saying it. The world is changing. Are you ready for it? Over the past few months, my urgency has been elevating, and I've tried to convey it without spreading fear or anxiety. I've always just wanted to spread information that is not given in full to the masses and help people connect the dots. I've spoken a lot about change and that we are approaching something major. And I realize messages like that can get to be a little bit too much when you keep hearing about it. Yet you aren't given much advice towards what to do about it. Over the past few weeks, I've heard many questions from people asking what can they or should they do to prepare for all of this. Years ago, I made a video about preparing for the collapse. And though most of that information is still valid, the video was made pre-COVID. For those that did follow that advice, during the lockdowns when jobs were being lost, when food was low on the shelves in the supermarket, when toilet paper was a commodity that seemed like gold, during those lockdowns, those that prepared definitely had more strength and felt less pressure and or fear than the many that were not prepared. It's always wise to prepare for a storm. But again, that information was pre-COVID, and the world is different today. Prices are surging. We have even less privacy than we did before. And many people have even less money and resources than they did when I made the last video. And on top of that, the lines have been drawn in regards with people in our faith and many people that we thought were our allies. And they have now stepped back and shown that they could be actually our enemy at any time. We should all be prepared in many ways, spiritually, mentally, and physically. I would like to provide you with some guidance that I use for myself and my family that might help you in these last days. Let's begin. So let me say this first. This message is to believers, those that have placed their faith in Messiah Yahshua and believe on him fully, and that he is the only way to our Father. What's coming to this world is all about him, and you will need him in all ways and in all aspects. None of what I am speaking about is about taking any power or dependency on him away. Those that think that they can prep without relying on Father are deceiving themselves. I just said that I desire that we are all prepared mentally and physically, but first and most importantly, spiritually. And when I say spiritually, I don't mean in that false way that people like to claim their spirituality. I mean being led by his Holy Spirit and being aligned with our Father in heaven. This is the first and most important step in prepping because he is our source. He provides all for us. And it is in him that we should depend upon. You can take all the steps in storing up, have massive food and water, but that is not your lifeline. They're just resources. You need to depend on the source because you could easily lose all that you were storing up. Your house could get flooded, or chaos in your area moves you out of your home. Then you will see that those supplies meant nothing. But if you are spiritually led by his Spirit and have learned to trust in and depend on him, he will give you the strength and guidance to get through and allow his will to be done. Proverbs chapter 16 verses 1 through 3 says, "The preparations of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from Yahuwah. All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but Yahuwah weighs the spirits. Commit your works to Yahuwah, and your thoughts will be established." Yes, commit your works to our Father in heaven. Set your mind upon his will and serving him. We are his servants here doing his will. Do not put your hopes and trust in your preparations and supplies. Put your hope and trust in him. He wants us watching for him. He wants us awake, alert, aware, and ready. For those that say they do trust him, that's why they don't have supplies, I don't believe that to be prudent or faithful. For me, from my vantage point, it seems that the only people really preparing are those that Father has kept his hand on and eyes opened. There is a small majority in this world that actually are able to see what is coming. I don't believe that to be an accident or coincidence. I believe our eyes are open so we can be prepared. And even if our supplies and preparations aren't for us, they may be resources that others may need so they can get through. When Joseph learned of the drought that was coming to Egypt through his dreams, he didn't say, "Don't do anything." No, Father showed him steps that they were to take that was going to keep them alive. Joseph was able to help preserve his family and Israel because of it. Noah wasn't told about a flood and expected to do nothing. He prepared an ark with food and preparations so that his family could survive. If you feel danger coming, doing nothing does not prove your faith, unless that is what Father told you to do. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 3 says, "A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." So, in your preparations, you must start with Messiah and putting your faith and trust in Him. Your faith should not be in your supplies or preparations, but they can be a resource. Now, after you have taken care of placing our Father in the priority and letting Him lead and guide you, or at least you understand how important that is and are working on it, then you can start at your preparations if you are led to. Now, before I go into the advice I have, let me share my mindset because that's important. For me personally, I have not been given a mindset to prepare for the full 7 years. Maybe that is just for me and my family, if Father is telling others something different. This advice is about withstanding the first blows of the collapse so that you do not feel pressured into moving out of desperation. I can't tell you how things will happen. I know how they have been showing us in the movies.
About it, okay? First, the stock market would go. Then, the economy, boom! The dollar, boom! And then pandemonium in the streets. War, genocide, boom, boom, boom!
But I don't know how things will play out in reality. I just have expectations, and it's those things that I'm preparing for. Now, I don't personally believe there is a right or wrong answer for being prepared for this coming world. My main piece of advice in wondering how to prepare is to listen to Father. Everyone in the world is different. We live in different areas, have different abilities, different purposes or callings, different means and resources, etc. And only Father understands this completely. He may be telling you to prepare and stock up on items, while He may be telling another to stay free and mobile and ready to move. Maybe He is telling you to stock up not for yourselves, but for the others you have been warning, and that they may need your preparations in order to get through. I don't know. That's why it's all about His will and walking in it. So this subject is not a rule book. My thoughts are in no way the rule book or the way. I just want to provide practical advice and understanding from my vantage point. Let me first break down my mental preparations for the times ahead. I expect war and economic collapse. The war part, I believe, will go quickly, with instant destruction of major nations. Highly populated countries that have like 1 billion people, I expect something that drastically reduces that population size. In the United States, I expect an EMP here. Major cities will go dark with no power. Those are my expectations. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm a prophet that can see in the future, so please don't place those labels on me. Things could happen in a very different way entirely. So what happens is not as important as what the consequences of what happens is. And regardless of what the spark to the fire is, once it's set, there are specific things that I am expecting and planning for. First thing is for the supermarkets and gas stations to go dry in the first 24 to 48 hours. Also, we'll see banks close to prevent bank runs, and all money in banks are held. More than likely, the money will be converted into crypto at ridiculous values to give people fractions of what they could have brought earlier. When people find that they don't have access to their money and prices for food have skyrocketed, they will take to the streets and there will be massive chaos and unrest. Last year, from the George Floyd protest, we have seen what that could look like, but it was much more controlled. When the collapse happens, it will not be. After the chaos starts, that's where martial law is ordered, and FEMA will be activated in the United States. This emergency management group may have a different name in your country if you aren't in the United States. And this is the part that you want to be protected from initially. The government will come around looking to provide help and resources to all those who are hungry and desperate. It will be a roundup that will sound like it is being done for everyone's well-being. The hungry, those that were not prepared with food and water, will be the first ones to run into their arms, hoping for refuge. This may last for 2 or 3 months minimum as they try to weed families out. Like I've said many times, the goal is to bring a new order after all of the chaos. Our goal should be to not seek refuge from them and never be a part of the desperate and the hungry. From what we just saw through the pandemic with COVID, we saw how irrational people get when they are moved through provocations of fear and desperation. They do irrational things they normally wouldn't do. When people are hungry and their children are hungry, and there is nothing that they can do, they will turn to the arms of the government. And it's the government's arm that you do not want to be led into. So understand, this planning and preparations are mostly about staying away from desperation and hunger, so you are not led into irrational situations. Just as we see with these times of COVID, they are segregating the world into 2 populations, those that are vaccinated and those that are not. They are showing us that there are conditions required for us to accept in order to be a part of their system and receive their help and support. My goal is to not ever feel that I ever need to go to them for their help. If we are prepared and have food and water in our homes, we have first aid supplies and other essential items, we keep ourselves from their initial agenda to grab up those who are not watching and who are not awake and alert. My goal is to stay in my home as long as possible, to keep my family safe inside while their needs are being taken care of. This is how I see things, and based on that view is how I am preparing. I am prepared to stay inside for at least 6 months. I never want to be, nor do I want you to be, one of those that need to go to the store for anything when you hear things start turning and changing. I want to be able to go straight home and lock up shop. Now, people often ask me, what happens after 6 months? The answer is, I don't know. I don't even know if the preparations I have now will even pan out. I don't even really think the supplies I am gathering are really for me, to be honest. I don't know what will pan out after the first 6 months. I believe Father will provide more guidance when the time comes. I just want to be able to be ready and able to hear His voice without having the provocations of fear and desperation clouding my judgment. The biggest tool these people use against us is fear. I believe having supplies weakens that provocation of fear because we know we don't need them. So how do you prepare? Let's get to it. Now, most of this information I have covered in the other video because the advice has not changed. I'm sorry for the repeat of information, but this question keeps getting asked, and I want to make sure this information is fresh. The information has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the urgency. This advice is not something I would advise you to take your time on applying. It's advised that you get started immediately. Maybe you aren't financially able to buy all the supplies at once, but if you start buying in increments when you get paid, you should be okay. Please understand, I am not one of those that recommends all those prepping kits that cost over $1,000. I believe that all of us can do this. You may have to make tweaks to the current food you buy and what you're eating today while you're preparing for tomorrow. So don't go out and buy all the water at one time if you can't afford it. Buy them 1 case or 2 at a time. Piece it together slowly, but with a plan. Do what you can do and do not stress about it. Listen, and this is important. Please do not stress about whether you are able to buy supplies or not. Like I said earlier, these supplies are not your source. They are not what sustains you. Father is. Build dependency and trust in Him, and no matter what, you will be fine. If you know how to lean on Him and trust in Him no matter what, then whatever transpires and happens, you will be fine. This is not a money issue. This is a trust issue. For me, with the risk of war, hyperinflation, and economic collapse, I believe in buying resources when I can, before I'm not able to do so in the future. So this is how I do it. First thing you need is water. For each person in your home, I recommend at least 500 water bottles. This will last you about 6 months if you use 3 bottles per day. Like I said earlier, you do not need to buy this all at once. Buy 2 cases at a time or piece it together. I get mine from Costco and Sam's Club, but Walmart and Target sell the cases too. They do take up a lot of space, So what I've done is got some containers from Home Depot and I store them in there. Listen, water is important. Your body can go without food a lot longer than it can go without water. So make this a priority. Even if you can't buy all the water you need, the more you buy, the better. Trust me, water is one of the first things to go in emergencies, so it's important to own them now. Now that you have water, let's talk about food. This can be difficult because food expires. I'll tell you what I do on a budget. When this food is needed, you don't need extravagant meals. You want food to eat, period. People talk about the sodium intake on these foods, and I do agree. I do not advocate eating these foods on a regular basis today unless you have to. But in times of an emergency, these foods will be clutch. For me, I buy a lot of ramen noodle packs. They are inexpensive and are an easy meal to cook. I buy them every time I can. This will serve you well in emergencies. People also recommend buying canned tuna, chicken, and beef, but that stuff can be expensive. If you can afford it, you should buy it. But for me, my major recommendation is buying the Chef Boyardee cans like ravioli and beefaroni. They are like $1 a can at Walmart. I normally go to the store and buy at least 12 at a time. You can take $25 or $50 extra dollars at Walmart and have a good amount of food that has a long expiration life on the shelf. Also, buy oatmeal. Quick 1-minute oatmeal. The oatmeal will serve you well for breakfast and will keep you full. Buy large bags of sugar, flour, and rice as well. Buy pasta and canned or jarred sauce. That will go a long way. These are things I buy, but you do what you can. The art to this is to buy foods that have some shelf life and won't break the bank. I have brought meats that I keep in a deep freezer, but that is not a long-term strategy. You should plan with the thought that you might not have power for a bit. Meat in freezers will go away fast, and then you will be left with nothing. Also, you can grill meats in the beginning maybe, but as things go on and people start smelling that food coming from your house, they will know you have food, and now you have become a target. When buying supplies, buy foods with a long shelf life that you can cook inside without power. You don't have to break the bank to have food to feed your family. Now, because we are planning with the thought that we will not have power, I also recommend buying a butane stove and the butane fuel cartridges. They look like this. You can buy the stovetop for like $20, and the fuel cartridges come in packs of 4 for like $7 or $8, I believe, unless prices have gone up on them. This little stovetop will allow you to make food every day. Buy as many fuel cartridges as you can. This item will be essential because your electric stove or gas stove probably won't be working, and like I said, the grill brings attention. I gave this advice in the last video, but I want to repeat it. I know most people will tell you to get a generator, and maybe that might be important to you. I own a generator, but during these times, I don't think I would use mine. I don't want people to know I'm home and that I have power and supplies. It's not that you don't want to help people, but when you draw attention to your home, people will come and rob you. And also, you don't have enough supplies to help everyone. You need to be very careful, so using things like a generator just so you can have lights or keep the fridge and freezer on is not the best call in my opinion. This is what the unprepared will do. You don't need power, you only need light to see. So buy yourself some kerosene lamps and kerosene bottles. Buy a lot of wicks, and this is what you will use at night. Buy some candles as well. You can never have enough of these things, and they are not expensive. You can buy the lamp for $5 at Walmart and the kerosene bottles for $4 a bottle. Buy a bottle every time you go to the store. They will add up quickly. Buy some wicks. It's like $5 for one, I think. This will keep you with light, but will not draw too much attention to you. When lighting your home, you should make sure that you understand you don't want to show that you're home. So don't put the light in places where people can see at night from the street or in the backyard or wherever. All your family should sleep in the same room and away from windows, or at least block your window. Now, here are some miscellaneous things you want to have, but people sometimes forget. Toilet paper. Remember, you can't have too much of this. Buy this now. If you remember during the lockdowns, this, like water, was one of the first things to go. Also buy bleach. This will prove to be useful for many different reasons. Get first aid kits. This is what I do. Buy the first aid kits, and then whatever comes in the kit, buy it all separately as well. Don't forget laundry detergent, dishwashing soap, and remember, you don't need to buy the expensive stuff. Cheap will do. A can opener. You know how many people will buy canned goods and forget that they only have an electric can opener? Don't be one of them. Buy bars of soap. You can't have enough of this as well. Toothpaste, matches and lighter, garbage bags, Tylenol, flashlights and batteries, a weather radio, any feminine products you may need. Buy some and stash them. Don't forget about food and supplies for your dogs or pets. These are all things that I have. Also, don't forget board games. Have some board games and things you can play with your family. Things may get boring, so if you have a way to entertain each other, it will absolutely help. I will place a link to this list that I will put on my website. If I think of anything else, I will update the list on my site. Another thing that should be done is for believers to buy physical Bibles. I've gone on websites like christianbook.com and I brought boxes of Bibles. Like here, you can buy a case of 40 for like $70. They don't need to be all pretty and fancy. Look, the word must be spread, and you may be alive and put on this earth during this time to simply make sure that during the Great Tribulation, people had access to Bibles that never had access to them before. There are so many people that do not own a physical Bible, but use it only on their phones. If the phone goes, so does their access to the Word. And I don't believe this actual cell phone will be going away, for the world at least. But they will be tracking what you're doing on it, and I don't believe reading the Bible will be tolerated. The Word is the most important thing in the world today. It contains the power between life and death. It is a source of power that should never be able to be taken away from us. But at some point, it will be suppressed. So if you're in a position right now, buy some Bibles. Give them out to whoever Father places it on your heart to do so. You never know how Father will use you. I don't know how things will play out. I don't know what will happen. But I do believe if you are prepared for disaster, when it comes, you will have more control over your life than those that did not plan ahead. Don't put your life in the hands of the government. Even if they meant well, there are too many of us and very limited resources. It will not work out well. You do not want to be someone that needs to run to the stores when you hear there was a problem. Also, you don't need to share with everyone everything that you have and what you're doing. This is something that you keep personal with your family. The more people that know you have been stocking up, the more people that are a risk to you when desperation comes. Have conversations with everyone on what to do in case everyone is away from home and disaster strikes. Have a plan. I know many people will say that you need a gun or firearm. I did not forget to add this. For me personally, I don't believe in guns, so I don't promote them. You can disagree with that or not. That's my view. It's not law. I believe guns bring unneeded attention to you and will force authorities to your home to confiscate them. In this coming future, they do not want the public armed. Now, I don't know how they will take care of this, but I do believe it's on their agenda. Every registered gun just tells them where to come looking, and when they come, you will then have a problem either way. So for me, along with other reasons, I do not own guns. So that is not advice that I'm giving. I do have knives and machetes, but firearms I'm not an advocate for. But obviously, if you feel you want that type of protection, you should include that in your plan. Have a way to protect yourself and your family. People will be desperate and there will be crime. When all this happens, you should also get rid of your electronic devices. Your phones, computers, tablets, unplug your televisions, anything that connects to the internet. Believers will be going off grid. The way we currently live today will not be the same for us unless we join their New World Order. Those devices are trackers, and it's best not to keep them around in bulk anymore. This is important to remember during that point in time. Those devices will literally be your enemy, not a resource. It will completely allow the system to be able to listen to you and to track you. You must have in your head that you will remove these devices we have been made addicted to. We have been made to believe that we cannot live without these devices, but that's not true. The internet will not be your friend. The mindset is to live without the system and not being led to receive the mark. Be prepared to cut away from your devices, Wi-Fi, social media, etc. Anything that is connected to the web. And even though we expect a massive power failure in the United States, you don't know what the capabilities of those devices really are. Just be ready to go off their grid. Now please understand, I know this information is heavy, and knowing you are planning for this can bring a feeling of fear, but rebuke that feeling if it comes. I fear and pray for all those who are not prepared. I know for certain that those that have taken these precautions will have so many less things to think about than the masses that didn't, and this will allow you to focus fully on Father and making sure you are staying in His will and not moving erratically. Many people choose to live in ignorance and ignore the threats that we face, and maybe that's good for them, but I think it's a horrible decision. One day, things will be good, and the next day, disaster strikes. And if you are not prepared, you can often place your lives in the hands of your enemy. So I wanted to provide this information again so that everyone has an idea of what they can do. Again, I have this information on my website as well. This PDF is in the link below for you to download. Oh, and let me repeat this again, because it is the most important point. None of this will matter if you do not have faith in Yahshua HaMashiach. You must have a personal relationship with Him and commit your life to Elohim's will. He is all that matters. If you are new to my channel, please watch other videos and maybe they can help answer questions about Him. But read your Bible every day and seek Him. What I wanted to do here is to provide people with practical guidance to help bring awareness during these turbulent times. I do not know what the future holds as far as specifics of what and how things will happen. Many people have asked me, what should they do to prepare? Again, the truth is, I don't know. I'm just watching and waiting just like all of us. I'm praying that I'm counted worthy to escape all these things. But if I have misinterpreted those scriptures, I also pray that I have strength to persevere to the end. I don't know how things will happen. I just know that the potential for chaos is real, and we must be ready for it. This video is as if I was giving a weather report, and I'm telling you that the times that we are in are not showing clear skies ahead, but we actually face very perilous times. No one knows completely how things will transpire, but those who are watchful and prepared for it will do much better than those who are not. Just remember that your preparations are not your source and they are not your savior. Your physical preparations are just resources, but they are not your source. The only thing that matters is our source. Do not live only in a mindset of physical protection of your body, because believers will be persecuted. That's just a fact. Live in a mindset of spiritually protecting your soul, mentally guarding your heart, not to be led by demons and devils, but being led by our Father in heaven. Know that if you confess with your mouth the Master Yahshua and believe in your heart that Elohim has raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Romans chapter 10 verse 9. The days ahead are getting darker, and much uncertainty awaits, but not for the children of Elohim. As believers, we know what awaits us. Live with the scripture always, and you will be fine. Who shall separate us from the love of the Messiah? Shall pressure or distress or persecution or scarcity of food or nakedness or danger or sword? As it has been written, for your sake we are killed all day long. We are reckoned as sheep of slaughter. But in all this, we are more than overcomers through Him who loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor messengers, nor principalities, nor powers, neither the present nor the future, nor height nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Messiah Yahshua, our Master. That's Romans chapter 8, verses 35 through 39. Nothing that this world will try to throw at us can separate us from the love of our Master and Savior, Yahshua, Jesus Christ. If you understand this, you have nothing to fear. So stay watchful and be ready, because no matter what happens, the day of our redemption is near. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share it with others. If you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday. Also, please don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. If there is ever a time that you do not see this channel on YouTube, please look for me on my website, truthunedited.com. As always, I would really like to thank all those who support this ministry. You know who you are. Your contributions have been an extreme blessing to this ministry, and I'm very thankful for you and your support. Thank you for being a blessing to this ministry and following the call Yah has placed on your heart. Thank you. Okay, thanks again everyone for watching. I love you all.